Do you have the agenda, Naomi?
You want me to make copies?
Yeah, I didn't have a printed one, actually.
Yeah, you're all set on your copies.
Okay, we'll get going while you're doing that.
Yep, and then there's.
So, we're starting the August 2024 Conservation Commission meeting at 7:04. I'm Steve Najar, Vice Chair. Andy is not available tonight, and got Mike, Suzu, and Mark, and then Dave is here as our selectman representative, so we have a quorum. And yeah, we're going to roll right into first thing on the agenda, and we've got Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission here to talk to us about trails, and we've got Adam and James, and we, so the folks at home can hear you, if we can step up to the mic to talk, and we'll just give, I'll give a little kind of intro. I know we've talked about trails a bunch of times. We have a lot of different folks from the town at various times, express their interest in trails, and we've done our own kind of trails plan with Sinuosity, but I think at least the idea that kind of I'd like to push forward, and I know that we talked about, is more one of looking at interconnectivity, trying to do more funding, maybe trying to get a whole separate committee that has nothing to do with the Conservation Commission together to actually implement trails in Ware. And so I called Southern New Hampshire and talked to Sylvia, and she, out of our discussion, she came up with this list of 7 points that were in her email, and that's kind of what we're here to discuss tonight. And then she had also mentioned that, there's potentially matching funds available for, to go after like maybe some transportation funding, and that could help really, facilitate getting a good comprehensive plan together. So if you guys want to come on up and.
Sure. James Vayo, Principal Planner with Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission, and I'll let
Adam Lesney, Senior Transportation Planner, at the Planning Commission.
So we had, following on that conversation we had earlier, last week really, I think.
Yep.
What we can do is give you a little bit of an overview of what kind of services Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission usually provides for towns around this kind of activity, trails planning, and talk a little bit about what we think the scope of work could be, and maybe how some of those tasks could break down by Southern New Hampshire Planning and by the town of Ware, however they want to structure input, engagement, fact-finding, those kind of things.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission offers technical assistance in 2 forms. We can do it either through technical block grant funding, which is a resource, limited resource that we have to help towns with land use planning. We also are able to do some technical assistance through a local assistance program, which is funded in part through a planning grant that we share with the state of New Hampshire DOT that is sourced from the federal funding, federal transportation dollars. And so that really is transportation-focused planning activities. Typically, the kind of things that we help towns do are things like road surface management, mapping, safety audits, things of that nature. And
Yeah, bike ped counting is another one.
there's other programs too. We do culvert inventories. So we have a whole host of work products that we put out under our transportation planning program. Some of the products, tools that we use to put out our planning products include things like ArcGIS or ArcMap, which is an online mapping tool. So I sent you an email of a map that was a PDF, but Zach in our office, who is our data analyst, would put a map, often puts together maps like that are online or web-based, so that people can look at them and they can be shared publicly. What's nice about that tool is that it can be used as like a citizen science project where community members could come in and add input about things that they're looking for or identify key elements of a map, assets, desired assets or otherwise, you know. Another thing that we can do is put together matrices around how to prioritize and score projects or improvements. If you look at our road surface management program, that's like a lot of how that works is we go out, collect data, and then we're able to score or rank improvement strategies, and prioritize them. And so that same type of thinking can be applied to trails mapping as well. So for example, let's say you have a trail that runs between here and the edge of another town, and within that trail, maybe there's different categories or for improvement of that trail along it. Maybe part of it is usable by ATVs, and then other parts are only passable by hiking, and maybe other parts of it are ADA accessible. And so what we would do is we work with communities. We could inventory all that data into a segment of trail that is mapped. So when you would click on the map, you would see that segment, and then there would be a bunch of categories under it listing different attributes of the trail. And so I think a lot of what you guys want to do would fall into that category of let's map the attributes of existing trails, let's map the attributes of desired connections between existing trails and future trails and other things like signage, parking, gateway, information booths, the kind of resources that you would want to improve upon in the future. I don't know, maybe we could talk a little bit about how we've done scoring or criteria for measuring improvements. I don't really know what we've done in the past in terms of like the pathways to play. Or even Wyndham, how they did their mapping, if they did like specialized analysis about future improvements.
Yeah, I wasn't directly involved in that project, but I guess I'd want to hear more of what you were thinking and how we can help you with that.
Yeah, I mean, I know personally just from, some life experience and other places where there's really a robust trail system that uses, roads to connect and signage, and came across what Lexington had done, which, I haven't seen, any of that on the ground, what that all looks like. It seems like Mass seems to have some real specific, even trail kind of categories, but that seemed to be sort of the general idea. I mean, I've gone, hiking in like France and Switzerland where they do, they do that kind of thing pretty frequently. I mean, there's signs all over the place, and it tells you, how far to whatever, and points you to the trail, and uses regular roads to connect things up. So like it'd be our equivalent of, class 5 and class 6 roads. And it just seems like that's kind of what Lexington had ended up doing. Just came across that the other day, so I thought that was sort of interesting. So nowadays with the, I think electric bikes seem to be coming along. Imagine, that people be interested in, those connections with something you could really cover some ground with. And yeah, that's just the general concept I had, and open it up to Suzu or
Yeah, I think as you had expressed it, Steve, and I sort of agree, it'd be nice. We have a lot of dirt roads and, class 5, class 6 ATV trails. So it would be cool to have be able to see the entire town and see where you can go on dirt, on trail, how you can connect from town-owned property to town-owned property. And ideally, I think, I don't know that Southern New Hampshire would be involved in this so much, but having connectivity between town-owned parcels and then having trail networks in those town-owned parcels, I think is the overall vision. But yeah, providing residents with a way to see what we have in terms of dirt travel, which there's a lot.
Yeah, one of the things that, when we spoke, you know, it prompted me to ask Zach in our office to print out a map, just a simple map from OpenStreetMaps of identifiable trail assets. And so just to start a conversation, knowing that it will not have most of what, it probably is missing a lot of assets because there's work that needs to go into doing that kind of thing. So it's also a good tool for having a conversation about, the kind of work that SNHPC is well equipped to help the town with efficiently versus the kind of tasks that the town would probably want to have some kind of task force to collect the core data that's needed and then validate that data and really be the face of putting together a trail plan if that's what the town wants to do.
Yeah, I think, a big part of the overall push would be to try to have some sort of a forum to see who's really interested, right? Because we hear from folks at various times, but that doesn't translate into action. And Conservation Commission, I mean, you guys probably know, but we're kind of narrow in our focus in that we manage conservation lands. But the map that your analysts had put together, I mean, that covered a bunch of Class 6 roads, and that gets pretty hazy, like what a town can even do unless they got redesignated as trails. So can't really maintain a Class 6, but how do we utilize that as a trail, and do we need to look at any improvements? Or it seems like those things just magically, probably whoever the person is either going to their property or going hunting or going four-wheeling is got a chainsaw with them or something, because you think about all the trees that fall every year and they still manage to those roads stay open without really the town intervention. So that is going to be the one tricky thing, understanding what to do with those and what can we do with them.
Do you have any guidance as far as what that would be, using Class 6 roads as trails, or anything specific that the town would have to take the task to get that done?
I don't know the specific rules around what's required for non-maintenance, I should say, on Class 6 roads. I do know that they tend to get improved, even though they're Class 6 roads, especially when people live off of them. And so what we could do is do a little research and look into what the legal framework is for private parties maintaining a road that's designated as an unmaintained road. And what that might point to is, especially if the town doesn't want to take responsibility for them, it might point to the need for like an advocacy or nonprofit organization to operate the trails. And that's pretty common in our region for some of the other municipalities, especially ones that have improved bikeways, like the Granite State Rail Trail that runs through Londonderry and up through Manchester, Derry. It's all improved, and there are bike groups that specifically work to make incremental improvements on an annual basis, and they're constantly out scrounging for funding, applying for grants, advocating in coordination with the town to do the improvements.
Yeah, we've got a couple of, one private organization that's doing some upgrades to a couple Class 6 roads for snowmobile trails. Figured that would probably be the case.
Dave, you saying as far as you mean the Snowmobile Club? Yeah,
He's got-
that, I mean, and Mark can speak about that, but the Snowmobile Club, they've got, you know, some specific areas and agreements that are, you know, just specific to snowmobiling, so that, you know, they don't, some of their private landowner agreements don't carry, you know, there's no use of them.
Strictly for winter use.
Yeah, yeah, exactly,
They're gated off for summer.
yeah. So those, and then I know, do you guys still, I know back in the day, you had to buy the actual trail maps, right? You didn't want them just out there for free, or,
That was a fundraiser for the club, but pretty much no one makes there's an online map.
is there no? Yeah,
The app for your phone you pay for, but the online map on NHSA or SLED New Hampshire, you can access free of charge. But if you want the app on your phone, there's a fee for it.
yeah, so whether we'd roll that data into this, we'd have to find out
See,
from the
some of that
club.
stuff is, they shut that off for the summer. The map is, the trails aren't listed on the map for the summer
Yeah,
because they don't want people trying to follow snowmobile trails during the summer.
makes perfect sense,
So they shut that off. They started in October and they shut it off in April.
yeah. I can see
But
that.
that's something you can talk with SLED New Hampshire. And they talked about working with the towns if we need specific data. They could pull out that data. Most all the trails around here, we personally GPS, and that's what that map is, our GPS trails. We physically went out and GPSed them.
Do you have a feeling for how much that's on public land versus the private agreements?
We probably got a third is public, considering a good part is Army Corps,
Yeah,
and the rest would be private. And then, well, we got Conservation Commission, there's 2 or 3 places that we got town land that we're on.
yeah,
But then Mount Williams is a big private.
yeah.
You know, we got Charlie's over here.
That's a good point too. I mean, we never really think about, you know, the Army Corps
Yeah.
trails that are in where and really, you know, how you figure out what's actually here.
There's a Gateway North Trail that runs from the bridge all the way to Ranger Station, actually to the dam.
I don't know the details of it, but there's some pretty substantial like destination for OHRV riders just east of town, maybe north and east of town.
Yeah, north. I don't know about east, north. It's Henniker and Hillsborough have ATV trails. There's no ATV trails in Ware,
Okay.
other than Clough State Park.
Yeah, is that part of the one by like Deering Fish and Game? There's a rail bed there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But Hillsborough and Henniker have ATV trails.
yeah. And there's probably some potential, research on, you know, as part of this plan, maybe in contacting the, railroad to see, you know, there still is that long kind of, right-of-way that they own going through town.
Yeah, and you know, these are all things, you know, this discussion is really indicative of a broader, sort of more structured conversation you would want to have about,
Right.
you know, what are the criteria we would want to set forth for selecting assets for a future improvement, you know, a connected and future trails map. So yeah, think of that as kind of like a phase 2. Phase 1 being, you know, really document the existing conditions, what's available, when it's available, by who, user type. And then once you have a complete picture of that, you can really break it out by layers and say, this is where hikers can go, this is where people on bicycles mountain bikes can go, and here's where people on snowmobiles can go. And then you can make smart decisions about what kind of connections you want to make where. And inevitably, you're constrained by funding, so then you guys go and find the improvements that sort of check the box for the greatest number of people, and you make those selective investments first. Or, you know, you might have a big goal around some single asset that you want to improve and make incremental improvements along its length. It really comes down to who's motivated to go out and do the work of advocating for funding, applying for funding, doing the improvement work, the volunteer groups, who's willing to socialize the cause. All those end up being considerable factors.
And that's where the forum kind of comes in, you know, to find out who really is out there, you know, because we hear from a few people, but there's not like a set group that I'm aware of in town. So that, you know, ideally we'd try to set something up as part of this and have it over probably in the, you know, one of the schools or the town office building. So do you think, what you were just talking about, you know, would that be one project with 2 phases or 2 different projects?
So Adam and I were talking about this a little bit this week, and I took a pass at trying to lay out what I thought was a timeline or a work plan, so I can pass that around if people
Yeah,
want.
that'd be great.
I brought extra copies of that map that I shared with you.
Yeah.
No, this map is, you know, not anything other than an informal, quick pull of assets that we found that were publicly available, so it's not gonna have everything on it. I'll make a second round here with the work plan. So that's just a public information map you're looking at. Alright, so in this work plan, I kind of broke down what I thought was a year-long process, and it broke down, we talked about and kind of broke down who we think would be the primary responsible party for doing the work. And I really just picked months because I assume you guys meet, maybe you meet twice a month, maybe you meet once a month. So, you know, I said every month we'll sort of set a goal to make an incremental step towards the next, towards completing a trails map and setting forth an improvement plan. So I didn't put any hours of work to this, but just put this together to get a sense of what, you know, it mostly follows what you saw in Sylvia's email, Steve.
Yeah.
But of the division of work here and how, and who you guys might think would be responsible for the stuff that would need to happen at the local level that honestly Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission can help facilitate these things by, we have the tools, right? We have survey tools, we have mapping tools, we have a really good outreach engagement at a regional scale tool. We're not very plugged into the local life here in Ware, to be honest, so we really, you know, we could bill you to do that work, but we wouldn't do nearly as good a job as you guys yourselves would do in that. And so that was the rationale for how we broke this down.
Quick question, it lists trails here. What are these trails, or where did you get that?
This is public data available from a resource known as OpenStreetsMap.
Okay,
So that means that anybody in the world can go
And put something
OpenStreetsMap.org
in,
and
yeah.
look at this data.
Did you get a chance to look and see if Granite had trails?
We
data
did
set?
not pull that up, but I'm sure that they have some land use information. I'm
Yeah.
certain that they have Class 6 roads listed. I wouldn't
Yeah.
be surprised if they don't know which roads are gated and which ones are not, never mind passable.
Right. Yeah, because like we were talking about the trails in green, I mean, they've got actual, some of these are trails and some of them are actually Class 6 roads down in that Farron Pond area.
Yeah, and that's an important note. OpenStreetsMap is a citizen's project, right? So the data in here is not gone through any kind of quality control. It is just the data that somebody took the time to put into the map on their own time, you know, as a volunteer. So none of this is sanctioned trails by New Hampshire DOT. None of this is official in any way. It's just was really meant to be an example exhibit of our ability to push out a map very quickly, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
called and the next day I sent you an email with a map.
Yeah. So for the data collection, you know, if the townsfolk were doing that, do you have the ability to have, you know, who's ever collecting this data, use like field maps, or, you know, would you set up a kind of, I guess, you know, I've used field maps once or twice, you know, kind of drop down menu of what you're going to collect and, you know, have them collect the actual data, or what would you do, or how would you collect, you know, these points here that we're talking about?
There's varying levels of intensity of how much work it would take to do something like that. I think as a first round, I'd recommend getting together whatever user groups, you know, institutional knowledge that exists, and have them do the first pass at mapping, knowing that they don't know 100%, but they probably know quite a bit about these assets. And they're not all going to come from a single person, but you have a group of 5 or 6 people that probably could cover quite a bit of the knowledge. And then you would want to do a second pass at that and really start classifying trail segments as they change in characteristic. Yeah. So let's say, you know, one part of a trail is, a mile of a trail is packed gravel and you can easily walk down it, it's flat. You know, and then the next mile is actually jagged rock and you might have to even scramble on your hands for a little bit. And so there's very different user groups for that, so we'd want to document all those attributes. And so there might be gaps in that information that could really come from the public that could help input on that, or a wider user group population base once the initial map is put together. And all this assuming that nothing, very little already exists about existing conditions. Now, you could do that third layer that you're talking about where you set up a tablet and somebody's out in the trail and walking on the trail and collecting data. That's very labor intensive. Now, if you have volunteer groups that were willing to do that and a way to purchase iPads to do that, we could easily set up the resource in ArcGIS. It would take very little effort for us to do that. It just, in terms of getting a cohesive and complete project it would probably be difficult.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how you get the trail segments. So, I mean, I think for the Conservation Commission parcels, we've already got most of that. So we've got a
As-
report of sinuosity that we can, share. I think that had most of them, guys.
Yep, the website has some as well,
Yeah,
the town website.
but I mean, as far as details on, you know, kind of what the trails were like and,
Sure, yeah.
yeah. So I think we've got, so our problems, you know, as a Conservation Commission, we're charged with managing the conservation lands, but how do you, you know, how does the rest of this happen? So I think we'd have to almost push the public outreach to the top, you know, as far as one of the first things after, you know, this is a good initial start, you know, here's what we've got. And kind of go through this and see, you know, what the user, you know, what there is for user groups, what the interest is, prioritize from there, and kind of the next steps.
Sure, almost like a fact finding about what types of activities and assets that the general population wants to have access to, or?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think help with the existing trail condition and suitability for use types, I think would want help with that as well. And then how do you want to receive that data?
Well, there's a couple different things we could do. We would set up a digital portal where people can provide input to a series of questions and potentially mapping point A to point B. The second would be to do that with paper. And really it would the heavy lift there is relying on the town or any, you know, a group of the town to go out and solicit that input. And we've seen in the past, even now, you know, on any given project, there's pretty high variability between participation.
Right.
For example, we do master plan updates with a lot of our towns. And some towns will go out and get 400 residents to participate in a survey, and other ones will get 40. So really, it's just it really comes down to like how engaged and how much effort whatever group you guys elect to have do this yourselves or a representative group, how hard they'll push to go out and get the word out to the public and engage them in the process. Now we can also create pitch materials like, hey, we're doing this survey, you know, take 5 minutes and fill this out. And that's really easy for us to do. It's the physically connecting those materials that we make to the people that we're not good at. You know,
And
in
that's
this-
assuming that the public would have a general knowledge of trail condition and availability in town, without, you're not actually looking for folks to head out and you know, got a GPS in their backpack and mapping the trail. You just want to know initially where the trails are.
If you have a couple diehard people that are willing to do that, that's great.
I'm just looking what works for you. Just having in this section of town, there's a trail about 2 miles up off this Class 6 road. You can head off if you're heading north, take a right about 2 miles in, and there's a nice path through the forest that leads to conservation land or something like that. Is that what you're looking to receive?
It really comes down to two things. Like, what do you want to document as existing conditions? For what assets? And for what users? And then that you back into that the data, the questions that you ask, and where you pose those questions, right? If it's a trail network that's directly behind the school, maybe you engage the teachers of the school system in getting input about that. If it's, you know, it's at a boat launch, but the trail goes up a hill to a nice vista or something, maybe you put out a solicitation to participate in the survey at the boat launch or at the trailhead. That's kind of what I'm thinking, but also I'm assuming that the groups that are involved with, say, improving the snowmobile trails have their own mailing lists and will know exactly who to talk to about what, and they can identify trouble problems or spots that are gaps in their system, things like that. It really comes down to how engaged and cohesive your user groups are.
Excuse me, in the end though, doesn't someone still have to go out and GPS the trail? I mean, how do you get it on the map?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if the
Because that's
physical.
what we had to do to get a state map, is every club, as part of their grant, had to send in a GPS of the trails. And that's where the information for the state map comes in.
Yeah, we could collect cell phone data that way, yeah. I don't know if ArcMap GIS does that, but maybe we could find another resource to link up with that.
You can
All Trails
record,
does, right?
yeah, on All Trails or Gaia, and you can turn it into shapefile or whatever.
Can't you just use field maps?
Field maps being like an iPad or a paper?
iPhone?
I
No,
think,
no,
yeah,
I mean the
there's a lot
actual
of apps that you,
ArcGIS.
oh.
Used to do
Yeah.
what, call a collector or?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to ask Zach in our office, our GIS analyst, if there's a way that ArcGIS can gather GPS coordinates in a continuous manner from a cell phone.
I think it can.
If
There's a lot of free apps that, well, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, there's a lot of options for doing them, definitely. For recording a track.
Yeah, I mean, with like field maps, it's the, you know, say for fire, it's NIFC that has an account. So I don't know if Southern New Hampshire having the account and then just, you know, whoever can log in, you'd set up a username and then they would collect data and would dump it to wherever you set for it to go when the phone syncs up.
Yeah, a lot of the trails, there might be existing, like you said, the All Trails or some existing data, and then there might be a little arm off of a trail that not many people use, and that's where GPS would be more useful, rather than GPSing everything. Cut down on time and workload.
Yeah, that's exactly right. What Adam says makes total sense. Like, 80% to 90% of what you guys would care about in terms of existing probably already exists at some data portal that we can pull from based on your guidance of, this is the one we trust the most, or we really use this one. Great, we can pull that in. And Zach can map that very quickly. And then this is why I think really you would want a working group to define what's missing, and then really target towards finding those missing assets. So, otherwise you will get a lot of scattered data if you don't, like say if you just put it on the town's, I don't know if you guys have a Facebook page or what you use, maybe the town webpage, you say, oh, fill out this, you would just get a lot of scattered data, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're gonna wanna, more have that kind of forum as a way to kick this off and find out who's out there and what they're willing to do as far as, participating. Because just, other than the snowmobile club, there used to be an ATV club a long time ago. I think that, disintegrated. There's nothing else organized that I'm aware of. Then I think we're gonna have to kind of be cautious and make sure that folks aren't contributing trail data for private lands without, landowner permission. So somehow we probably need to say that if we move forward.
Yeah.
That might be a little bit of, there's mapping assets, existing trails, and then there's, which is very different than, say, an official existing trails map.
Yep.
So,
Yeah,
you could collect that data, identify it, know it, and not, and then create a map that's separate from that, that sort of is, these are officially the places where trails exist. These other things are not trails.
so if it's a Conservation Commission effort, does state law, literally, we can't go on private land for conservation purposes without permission.
Yeah, so, but that data might already exist, right?
Yeah,
So-
gotcha, right. But as far as telling someone to go out there and, do whatever. So I just have to be cognizant of that. So I mean, I don't know, what else you guys have for questions or thoughts or how we would move
Well, just-
ahead?
Past projects, have you worked with towns that are, I mean, we're kind of from the ground up here, starting from scratch with a little bit of information. Have you worked with towns like that before?
I want to say
we-
Chester or Auburn, or?
We did some work in Chester. We also worked with Wyndham, but they had some, I
They have
guess.
their rail trail.
Yeah, they had some data and we went out and GPSed to verify what they had. That's kind of what I was referencing before is GPS to verify, but don't do the entire town because that would take a very long time.
That's what's in my head right now, is actually
Yeah.
identifying the existing trail system, just the major trails. I don't know, maybe that's gonna take less time than I think, but I think that might take a little bit of time.
Yeah, just to be really frank, like, there's things that we can do in-house that we're efficient and set up well for. We really don't have a ton of staff capacity to be sending staff out to be walking trails.
Yeah, no, understood, yeah, I think that'd be on the town to get that.
Do you have any contacts that we could talk to, like you're saying, someone that you've worked with, that we kind of do a lessons learned type scenario? Hey, how'd you guys kick this off? How did you, get to the point where you're ready to actually start?
Yeah,
Be
we
serious about it.
could give you the, Wyndham's a little bit different, but we could give you their, forget if it was their Conservation Commission that we worked with, I think it was. We can give you their contact info.
That would be great.
Yeah, the big difference with a lot of the towns, especially close to the Merrimack River Valley, like right on the river, close to the river, I-93, is there's just a lot of these old established rail beds, and so they kind of act like a spine for launching these projects, and the energy kind of builds around this one thing, a rail trail, and then it kind of spins off into other things, and so that might be one strategy, identify the thing that excites the most people in the town, and kind of split off from that as you go.
Because the process ends up being the same, it's just, yeah, you had a bigger anchor to start with, but overall, you gotta define it. Be nice to talk to someone that's been through it.
Yeah, so the takeaway here is this work plan really was meant as a get people
Conversation
thinking,
starter.
yeah, get people thinking about what they wanna do. How tasks will be divided, so, I'm hearing a lot of questions. Adam took really copious notes, so we'll go back and ask Zach about maybe identifying, the sources. So that's a quick task. We can identify the sources for data. We can match that up with sources you guys can key us into. And you could just take a little bit of time to look at that to get a better idea of, what exists for existing data. Get a better map. Maybe push out the border, like a mile or so from the edge of where, if, connections to bordering areas are a priority, which, when Steve and I talked, that was something he mentioned, so.
Yeah,
Um,
go ahead, Sue.
I would just ask is it possible to separate out the town-owned conservation land from other state forest land so we can, see more clearly what is ours?
Do you guys have an existing digital map of your,
Yes, we have, our assessors maintain an online GIS database of all the parcels. I'm not sure if we have that GIS data or if we,
New Hampshire Granite inventories the owners for something called the parcel mosaic, so it knows the owner of every parcel in the
Okay.
state, at least for people who, with the rare exception of towns that don't record this data. One of the questions is, does Conservation Commission or town and controlled land have consistent naming? Because if it does, then we can look up the name.
for the
and-
most part, it would say, I think Conservation Commission, or Commission, Conservation, something like that.
So we should have, Andy's got the laptop that's got ArcGIS loaded. I'm not sure what version, but, so we should have at least a shape file. I'm not sure if that's in the geodatabase or not, but I believe, and also our consulting forester has all the parcels.
That would make
Oh,
it easy.
That's easy.
Yeah, so we do have that.
So
That should
that's
be pretty,
something we can get to.
yeah,
Okay.
that's pretty straightforward. So yeah, as far as, collecting up existing data, that would definitely be an important task.
And the work that was done prior,
Yeah.
sending that over, that would have some trails laid out.
Yeah, I think we still have a live link to that. I have to go digging for it, or Andy's got it. So, and then just kind of thinking in terms of, budgeting, or do we have enough information to maybe put together, kind of an actual, we have kind of this work plan here, maybe some kind of a budget associated with that, so we can, and see, potentially what the cost share would be.
Yeah, and I don't know what New Hampshire DOT would cover, depending on its nexus with sort of the mission and response, the goals of DOT, they vary in what they match. I've seen as low as 15% and as high as 50%, maybe even higher.
What are their motivators?
Well, they got a whole host of documents on their webpage that talk about, you go look at the state trails plan and, there's also, the tourism has its own version of that, recreational trails plan, right? So, but they're not offering funding in that way. They're offering funding for small improvements to recreational trails, so. But yeah, if we start with, looking at, you know, New Hampshire DOT's actions and recommendations around trails. You can see what the nexus is there. And, you know, some of that is just kind of soft politics, so like talking to New Hampshire DOT, see what they think of the idea of the project, and then they get back to us with some input and what they think is appropriate, and yeah. But we, you know, the first thing we can do is just start with putting hours to what we think the tasks will take, at least for the SNHPC stuff. And then it would really be on you guys to, you know, come up with a volunteer force on the where stuff.
So I think we're, you know, to come up with the volunteer force, we're really gonna need to do that public outreach to see what that, you know, what that looks like.
Yeah, well, I think what I am hearing means that we should reframe this work plan a little so that there's 2 phases of public outreach. The first phase just being like, hey, where has all these great natural resources and trails? You know, what do you envision for this?
All right.
Like envisioning goals, objectives,
Trying to
and
solicit volunteers as well.
Are you thinking like a work session type of thing, open to the public?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm thinking, you know, we had many, many years ago facilitated, I don't know if it was UNH that did that, it was like a town charrette. Anyhow, one of the things that came out of that was like there were all these different ideas that groups ended up splintering off and working on. Open space was one of them. But, you know, having just a real specific, you know, public meeting, asking anyone who's interested to come in and share your ideas and see if, you know, if looking at what some of the other towns have done, you know, is there a way to facilitate getting a nonprofit going or a whole separate town committee? Because conservation, like I've said a million times, just, you know, in various forms, our focus is kind of narrow. It's not like Class 6 roads, it's not recreational trails all over the place. So, you know, we've got our part of it, which is the, you know, the parcels we manage, but to bring it all together, you know, and trying to, hopefully this will act as a spark to do that.
you know, maybe, yeah, I mean, we can certainly help with creating the materials to conduct an outreach like that, but we'd really, you know, push for where to locally instigate that kind of outreach and engagement. You know, one other thought is if you can pull together a working group of, you know, I'll call them champions, the people that put in, you know, 50, 100 hours a year into the passion of maintaining whatever activity that it is that they do in these places. I would start with a small group like that first. At least that would be my recommendation, because those are the people that are going to reach 10 more people and 100 people more, you know.
Right.
And so it's just a much more focused way to spend time and energy talking about trails with people who will then disseminate that information and energy in an efficient way. But you know, no matter how you guys want to do it, we can help facilitate that.
I think we'll need some materials and like at least that kind of the first draft of the map that shows kind of what we have currently. That's
Yeah.
not very linked up.
Yeah, and we can spend a couple hours doing that. So we can volunteering Zach. But we can spend a little time doing local assistance before our Nate in our office tells us it's time to, you know, get into a work plan. So
Yeah.
we'll spend a couple times, so a little bit of time just working up what we know in terms of existing conditions, and the more you guys can feed us, the better. Because then we just have a more complete picture. And
Yeah, that'd be great. Dave, one thing that in that meeting, we talked about kind of the town purchasing policy. Sylvia said that Southern New Hampshire is actually,
The government agency.
yeah,
I saw that.
so we should be good.
I believe we'll be good. think
Good.
it pretty much came out of that, saying that one of the bigger questions is if they were, then we were okay. To not have to go out for bid, so.
Yeah, or do that justification, whatever it was that
Right.
we were talking about. I found that a little confusing, so it seems like we're just past that. Should be good.
I believe that's true.
Great. One less thing to worry about.
It's nice.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's great. Anything else, or? So,
I've just briefly, I've looked in the past for different funding opportunities, and I couldn't find much. Do you have a list of groups, organizations out there that, you know, besides yourselves, that offer, or even what types of grants we should be looking into from the state?
Yeah, there's two ones that are very popular. The first is the Recreational Trails Grant from, I think it's the Department of Economic Development runs it. It's good, it manages that. The second is New Hampshire DOT has a Transportation Alternatives Program. It's fairly complex and it's a fairly large, awards can get pretty large. But, for example, a smaller project that came through that was New Boston's tunnel to get to the other side of, they had a high road and they put in a box culvert to connect the rail trail under the high road. And it wasn't cheap, but, you know, it's over $200,000, I want to say.
Something like that.
You know, so it's kind of like really the TAP is meant for heavy lifts, and typically they're awarded to to towns that have pretty highly coordinated activity between advocacy groups and the town. So the town is clearly participating, the advocacy group is clearly participating. There's demonstrated progress towards improvements to make connections to, you know, to clear goals. And once all those pieces are in place, then they become good candidates for money. But even then, there's still a pretty rigorous scoring criteria, you know, to demonstrate need, you know, things like who's it serving, you know, how much match are you bringing to the table, things like that. And I think New Boston did theirs entirely fundraising. So they were so organized at the advocacy level that they were able to match whatever the minimum is, 20%, purely with fundraising dollars. So
so they have a nonprofit set up, or what,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't
Yeah,
know what
Friends
it's
of the New
called.
Boston Rail Trail or something like that.
interesting.
So it'll take time.
Yeah,
This is not a, you know, by next year you'll have this marvelous plan kind of thing. It takes some time.
we've been struggling with it for years, so we've already got some time.
Adam, I sucked a lot of wind out of the room. I don't know if there's anything I missed or.
No, I mean, I think you covered it well, and, yeah, I mean, collaboration is the key, and working together, the data and local experience you have with our regional expertise can result in a good project, so.
Yeah.
Great. Do you know if, when you talk to your analyst, I didn't check and see if that was, the attributes, I mean, if the PDF was referenced or not, but see if you can kick out a geo PDF on the next map, and then
A GL PDF.
geo PDF.
Yeah, I don't.
You guys ever hear of like Avenza PDF maps?
No.
Yeah, so you just literally like, you can upload the PDF on our app on your phone. and
It
puts-
like geo-references
Yeah.
it so you can follow a PDF trail map. It shows you where you are on a.
So like you could have like a map that has little cartoon graphics on it, but then you can see where you are. on
Yeah,
that map.
exactly, yeah.
That's pretty clever.
Yeah.
Never heard of that.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
called
really? Yeah.
Avenza.
Yeah, Avenza.
Yeah, can you, would you mind, Adam's taking notes, which I appreciate, thank you. But, if, the things we talked about that are important to you, if you could we summarize all this in our email when we connect over data, it will help. Yeah, we'll put all these requests together and see what Zach says.
Okay.
Cool. And we will get town-owned parcel data to you, and if you can dig up that previous trail mapping.
look
I've
too.
heard about it several times, but I don't know anything about it.
Yeah,
Is there GIS data involved with that? She
think
did
so.
mapping?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah, so that would be huge for them.
I'm sure there is. Or at least like a KML or something. Something that can be converted to GIS if it's
I'll
not
look if
GIS.
that old Dropbox
Yeah.
is still active.
Zach's pretty good, so if you can get him something that's vector-based or any kind of, he does some magic. I'm not quite sure how he does it, but
So Mike and Zuzu, could you shoot some emails on kind of capturing what we heard, just so, so we can kind of get and put a request to them, or just so we can share information. I think we've got everybody's email address on there. We can't really have conversation and decision, but we can certainly summarize what we, discussed and.
yeah, we'll rejigger the work plan a little, and I'll put a fee to like a scope and fee matrix together.
Awesome. I think it's been helpful.
Oh, yeah. You have a next step. Reach out to the town.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's get some, some costs, some updated map, and then, figure out public outreach part of it. I know like with the, many years ago for the town's master plan, there was, that was back like, I think it actually was a physical mailer that went out to townspeople with, check this if you're interested in that, check that.
It's kind of a dead art.
Yeah, I don't even remember seeing it electronically since. I don't know when the last time Ware really did like a huge update.
Well, when you guys are ready, you come see Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission. We'd love to help you update your master plans.
There's actually a new committee working on it right now.
Oh, really?
Phil's on it.
Oh, wow.
We've met twice. I don't know anything about it. But
Yeah, so maybe there is some potential, I don't know how we could do it on our website or something, but, just kind of a questionnaire you could fill out and have it log it. You have experience with that?
Surveys, digital surveys?
Yeah.
We are masters at that. It's one of the
Yeah,
things
maybe
we're
that-
really good at, so.
So,
Yeah,
now,
we-
where do you pull email from, like a car registration data? How do
Oh,
you get the emails?
Distributing the surveys?
Yeah.
No. We can do that, but really we rely on the towns to help us.
Okay.
We go to like all the regular suspects, so we go to senior centers and libraries, and schools are typically impenetrable, but we go to town halls and we go to parks and rec directors, and we just, as much as possible, we just leverage the town resources, and the results are really reflective on how aggressive they are at getting the word out, so.
So if you put the survey on like a website, obviously like, newspapers will do that or whatever. Do you have a way to set that up,
Yep.
Okay, so,
Yeah, we can, the other thing we could do is if, as part of the work plan, you want to set a budget for targeted marketing and social media, that's easy enough to do too. You can set a geographic fence around where and then say, hit 10,000 people over the next month and see what happens. And,
that's interesting.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's an effective tool. I've used it in the past with great success without having, because sometimes we want survey data that's not coming through the filter of the town. And so, we can do that, but it requires a budget to do it, so.
yeah, if you could come up with an estimate of that as an option, that seems very interesting.
Yep.
Because I think we struggle with who we connect with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
During
we don't reach
the
people.
elections, this past election, there was the transportation survey with Southern New Hampshire that did that as well, wasn't it? Yeah, so at the polls, they had a setup People came in, that little scan code, go on, do the survey, and then they report it out, probably a month and a half later.
So that was at the election, so.
Yep.
So I wonder if, I wonder what would give you the best, like unbiased results, just if someone could sit at home with their phone and just hit what they think on there. But,
Yeah, it's,
Well, the ad base would be if they're in that circle, right? Your boundary.
yeah,
You
you
could
would,
have people at the town lake or something that don't live in town filling out the survey.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But you
Which
can,
I'm not saying
you
it's a
can
bad-
also,
I'm
in
not
the
saying it's a
survey, you
bad
can
thing.
ask if they're a resident of Ware.
sure, right.
Well, what zip code do you live in? It's that kind of thing, so.
if you think about it from an advocacy perspective, it doesn't really matter if they're a resident of Ware. If there's a nonprofit that's gonna help, facilitate some of this, if you could pull that off, so.
Yep, no, I
Yeah,
agree. Yep.
yeah, it's kinda interesting. Yeah, this has been great, really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
We often lament that we don't make it up here very often, so we're glad to be asked to come out and meet with you guys, because we don't want Ware to think we forgot about them.
Thanks,
We might want to think that
really
We're-
appreciate that.
This is a shameless plug, but I am, a part of why I came back after taking a hiatus for a couple of years is Sylvia asked me to head up the regional transportation plan, which is the equivalent of our master plan for the region, transportation-wise, but also our regional comprehensive plan, which is our overall master plan for the region. So over the next 3 years, I'll be working on that, and that means I'll be doing what I can to make sure that the voice of the almost 10,000 people that live in Ware are heard as part of that public engagement process. So,
Cool.
thank you.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Okay, Mike. What's going on with the Barden demo? Come on up, Naomi.
I just contacted, I made the signature on it, so it gets signed. So you had town council look at, they sent us over so town, Always Wrecking had sent over a contract, cause that's what we were gonna start with. I sent that one and a sample one that we did, I think, for the town hall bathrooms maybe. And I sent the RFP so that what they were gonna be expected to do. And Laura put together an agreement kind of tying a little of everything together. So town council has put it together. It got sent over to the RJ Alzak Construction, DBA Always Wrecking, because that's the insurance company, and the RJ Alzak was the one that has the asbestos abatement license, not Always. When she did a search, Always didn't come back, so I had to get the certificate from RJ Alzak Construction. So, we are all done. At the board meeting, I believe we asked that you guys sign it. So I have a signature by them that she sent back to me today. Do you want to sign it? It does say Andy, but, do you wanna have you as the vice chair of the conservation?
Yeah, I can sign it. Do we need a motion or anything to sign it, or we just,
We authorize you guys to do it once Laura had put it together.
Okay.
At least that's what I took from it, so then they'll have to get a permit, I have their insurance. And then they had, according to the RFP that you put out, they had 120 days to complete. So that agreement is dated for today, so 120 days from today is December 12th. So it says they have to complete by December 12th.
great.
Today's 14th.
Yeah,
So I told them that, once you met tonight, I would, if you guys signed it, I would send it back, and then they'll have to get the demo permit and go from there. They can
Awesome.
get started.
that's excellent. Well, that's a good update. Okay, so I think what, when I talked to Andy, he was, a while back, wants to get out and flag, a potential trail. And I guess his thought was to let the demo happen and then get out there and flag the trail and then figure out how actually kind of put one in there. So if that sounds good, just see what happens with the demolition and plan on walking around there in the fall with some flagging and kind of lay something out.
Sounds good.
I think we got some good features in there. We've got an esker and we've got a beaver pond, stream. So there's a few sites, and I think there's kind of a little bit of a roadway going towards the beaver pond, so something to work with.
Sounds good.
So, yeah, it's been a little behind schedule, but it's happening. That's tricky, so, cool. All right, Poor Farm, the tree farm renewal, that was just basically, Meadows and would need a couple hours to deal with that. The guesstimate was on that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, did we, I'm forgetting how many hours Jeremy said. I would just throw at it up to 10 hours if someone wants to make a motion, that way we're covered. I think it's way less than that out of, town forest.
I'll motion that we grant Meadows End up to 10 hours of work for the Poor Farm Tree Farm renewal out of the town forest account.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, sounds good. Any discussion?
You sure, 10 hours? I recall that was,
I think it's way less. I just
Yeah.
said up to just because I couldn't pull the email up in
Okay.
front of me. Yeah, I think it's, quite a bit less. If you can find the email, I just couldn't put my fingers
went to
on it.
you, but I remember the discussion.
I thought it went out. Hang on, oh, here we go. You're right. Um, This doesn't say hours there. Hang on, must be another one. Oh, here we go. They said filling out the forms 15 minutes, however, I should get on site and verify. It's been a few years, so 2 hours would be reasonable. There it goes.
Yeah, that's what I recall.
Yeah, good memory.
So you wanna go 2, you wanna go up to 3?
3 hours.
So I'll amend the motion to strike up to 10 and replace it with up to 3.
I second the amended motion.
Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Abstain? All right, let me just email them. Come on. All right, done. We had a bill for a lock, and I don't know that I've got that. Do we have the actual invoices, Naomi?
She has it on the invoice sheet.
I think Beth has it on the outstanding invoice.
Yeah.
Okay, so the,
2024, 1075.
$30.84, is that what you're looking at?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we just gotta approve
That's
that.
on the outstanding list for Beth that you guys.
Somebody wanna make a motion to pay for that?
Motion that we pay for the outstanding bill for the lock at the Meadows Inn.
Dollar amount and where it's coming from?
It's $30.84. And, I don't know, conservation. That was for the Fair and Pond Gate.
Okay. Second,
I'll second.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Mike?
And that's all we have for outstanding, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay, cool.
but this for now you don't. She sent that today.
Yep.
Okay, and then, next up, Suzu's been working pretty hard on the RFP, so we got copies to tell us.
Yeah. I ran out of printer paper. I think this is like typewriter paper. Um,
Copies?
No, I'm just giving you a copy. Suzu brought it up.
So this is just sort of what came out of the working session with the Board of Selectmen. It's largely based on our agreement that we sign with Meadows End every year with updates as suggested by the Board of Selectmen, and then also as we thought about what it is that we're really looking for.
Okay, I have a question. I wasn't able to make that meeting, but this has to be listed separately, because under this, he bills by the board foot, ton, and cord for project preparation, but we also get billed hourly for project preparation. So if he's listing it that he's taking percentage, then he can't bill us hourly for it.
So, yeah, this was the whole thing, we talked about it for a while with the Board of Selectmen. I'm not, so, yeah, I guess I'm not sure, I've not seen how he bills it when they do forest harvest projects. But he in that agreement is defined clearly what is project preparation. I realized this after we had that long conversation with the Board of Selectmen. What is project preparation, what is administration, but it's actually just defined on the first page of the
I understand that.
agreement.
But you're talking about billing here,
Yeah,
and he's taking percentage for preparation.
yes,
So if you're using the terminology preparation, then it's preparation.
yes,
That's for painting the trees and just lining the
Right.
marks, that's preparation. We're on the flex thing, we were billed hourly for that,
okay,
as well as percentage. Either you're gonna take percentage or you're gonna take hourly.
yeah,
So we need to identify in this what is hourly and what is percentage. So under preparation, it's got to spell out, this is hourly preparation, this is percentage preparation. But as it's listed here, in my eyes, the way I read it, he's taking percentage for the project. And he lists what the percentage is. I'm not paying him hourly to do the preparation when he's taking it as percentage.
So,
It
Mark,
just needs to be spelled out.
hang on, so Mark, when you're looking at project administration and the gross stump, it's just what you're talking about in 2B, right? And so, the
I
other,
said preparation.
are you looking on page 4?
yeah.
What I'm speaking of is preparation.
Can I just say this as the RFP, this is my one question about the RFP, is this cost proposal page. I reached out to the county extension forester to ask about what is industry standard. His advice was what you've been using 4-year annual agreement is not abnormal, but there's wide variation in what different foresters do. His recommendation was to allow applicants to, because this is the RFP, I know that you had made some adjustments to the agreement, Steve, but his advice was to remain as vague as possible. That makes it harder for us to make apples to apples comparison between applicants if we don't have this is what you're charging, you're charging a percentage on gross stumpage, but I think it might make more sense to let applicants tell us how they charge for forest harvest projects.
Okay, I understand that.
Yeah,
But it says here under 2, it says forest harvest project management, all right, on Ware Towns First and other town, and it lists under A, forest harvest project preparation,
yes,
okay? And it's telling you
Hold on,
what
what page
that
you on?
is.
yeah,
Front page,
yeah,
number 2, section A.
yes,
So that's preparation.
yes.
And if you go to the fee page, he has a percentage there for the fee for doing that. Am I understanding that correct?
So
I need
on,
to see
on
it.
our page, on the cost proposal page, so like she talked with Mike Gagnon, County Forester, they all do it differently. So what Meadowson has traditionally done, that you picked up on, that was not consistent with that last agreement, was they were charging for the actual, showing.
The
That hour.
time somebody was out there marking the trees and showing the timber.
I believe they're charging for the showing. I'd have to go back and
No.
look on the marking.
That was under, I think if you look at the bills, the FSA that we approved hourly,
Yeah,
that was preparation, the marking of the trees and stuff, and then the showing.
I thought it was just the showing, but the way we have this one set up, so, that's
Yeah.
kind of like past at this point, is that all those things are in here, and then we have other fees, please describe. So each one of these prospective forestry outfits could say how they do it under that bottom category. And then, that all gets locked down in the contract, which is
Okay.
the second part of it.
I just want to spell out that if you're taking percentage, we're not paying hourly.
Yeah,
Well, no, that wouldn't necessarily be true. The commission could say, if a consulting forester says exactly what, just, I guess, bear with me here, but
Yeah.
if Meadowson says that they're gonna take 10% of the gross stumpage to administer the actual harvest, but they're gonna say under other fees that they could charge 4 hours to do the showing, then that's what they're bidding.
Then that's fine.
Right.
But that's not how our current is, and I just want to make sure that moving forward, that it's spelled out correctly in the fact that if you're taking percentage, all right, because it's 5,000 MBF, I mean, it's $5 MBF for marking the logs and stuff, but we paid hourly for that, this last Felch Farm, if you pull the FSAs out.
Yeah, we'd have to go look at that, but if they spell that out in other fees and we go with that contractor, then that's, we've made that conscious decision to do that.
Then that's a decision we'll make that we'll accept both hourly and percentage, is what you're telling me?
Whatever they propose, under this other fees section, they could say, I don't remember exactly, but if they said we're gonna charge $1 1,000 board feet,
Yeah. It was $5.
all right,
Per
so if they're
1,000 board
charging
feet.
5, yeah, per 1,000. I don't recall that there was an hourly associated with the actual timber marking, that it was caught under this.
Well, the very first one we paid on the Felds Farm was for marking it, then we paid them to be there to show it.
To show it, yeah, that's
those
what,
are, yeah, those should have fallen under preparation and administration and should have been billed
Under percentage.
the way, yeah, the way that it's said in the
but
agreement.
that's not the way that we've done it. So what I'm saying moving forward is, if Meadowson comes back and says, we're gonna charge you 8 hours to do a showing, and we agree to it, then that's the end of it, we agreed to it,
Correct.
so.
But at that time, we'll agree whether we're gonna pay hourly or he's gonna take percentage. I don't think that we're gonna agree to do both. Would you?
I think we could. Because if someone says, let's say company X says, we're gonna do 10% on your gross stumpage, and we're gonna charge you 8 hours to handle the showing. And then company B says, we're gonna combine all that and just 15% of the gross stumpage.
Okay?
Which one is really the one you wanna go with at that point? I'd say it
Well,
was
it's
company
spelled
A.
out.
It is spelled out, but I'm just
Right.
saying, either one of them, you
But
know,
currently, it's not spelled out.
that was just an oversight amongst all of us. That's the way it had been done all along.
Just moving forward, it's just, we need to be aware of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
all.
and that's here, that's
Right.
on page
Yeah,
4.
Exactly, yeah.
They have to include that,
If they wanna charge it,
right,
yep.
so it's right there, that's captured.
So I guess my question is, do we want any of this at all, or do we want to just say project preparation, please describe, project administration, please
Fees.
describe? Fees.
I would say just because the way you have this, if they're using this cost proposal, and they fill out this information for percentage, okay? Then that's percentage, that's what they're taking. I don't see how you could take and we're gonna charge you percentage and hourly. So I think that leaves it, they need to spell out what they're billing to do project preparation.
I
But-
just respectfully disagree. I think any of these companies can put on whatever we want, and then we can have that discussion in the selection phase.
Okay?
I mean, that,
Well, then that's a selection of the Forester.
the company.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Because some other company might bill some other way. So I think the advice that Mike gave Suzu is to keep it open,
Yeah.
which I think this does, having that in there.
Yeah, having that in there, but I guess what it seemed to me that he was saying was don't pen them in any way with this, like, charging for these preparation tasks by board feet of logs and chipwood and cordwood, and then the project administration tasks by gross stumpage. That may not be how they're interested in doing it at all. Maybe they do want to do hourly for administration, which is showing and preparing the contract and accounting. And maybe they want to do something completely different for preparation other than,
Well, I think you could just write that in there if you want to clarify on the other, just say if you have some alternative way. But I think that's pretty fairly standard anyhow.
okay. So maybe I'll just, for both A and B, say, other fees type space for them to,
Other method.
riff.
other fee, yeah.
We're asking for a proposal. My recommendation would be just leave it, list your fees for project management and then list it any way they want it. And that gives us an idea how other companies, if we're doing a request for proposal, how other companies are doing it. And then you can, but if you're putting them in a box, if you're putting this stuff here, you're
Yeah.
putting them in a box of this is what we're expecting.
which makes it much easier for us to compare applicants, but I don't know that that's how everyone even thinks about.
Right.
I don't think that's very uncommon at all.
Okay. So
I don't
think-
do lumber, I can tell you.
Yeah, I think the middle way is just on both of these, giving them a space to
Yeah.
do their own thing if they want.
Yeah, I mean, you could just say, put a note in there, alternative cost proposal, methodology is acceptable.
Yeah.
Yeah, have that and then or other method
Yeah.
underneath it. Just for myself, to be able to compare different applicants, having some standard there would help me.
Right, that's
'Cause
sort
I
of,
don't know how many
that's
hours it
the
takes to
problem.
go out and
right.
do a harvesting and prep per acre. Is there a per acre hourly correlation? I don't know.
Right. And so, yeah, if we give them a space to describe their own system, and everyone just does that, then it just, yeah.
I'm sure there's gonna be some, it's gonna be similar to what we received. The industry's gotta work with some standard, you would think.
You'd
Or I
think.
don't know. We'll find
That was
out.
why I had asked, but it didn't. So anyway, that was the only part that I had questions on. I guess the other thing was, so for, section 3 on page 3, we had talked about during the working session, what is it that we were looking for them to provide to show, you know, what we can decide on, basically a rubric. And the list became kind of long, and I'm wondering if all of it should be considered automatic fail for not including. I think A through C should be, and perhaps D through F are additional items that applicants could provide. To help differentiate themselves. But it just seems like a long, we knew we wanted to include some things that were required and someone would be non-responsive if they didn't provide, but it just seemed like a lot to me.
Well, I mean, to respond to D through F, I mean, that's not really a
Right, it's not a,
pass-fail kind of a
Right.
thing. It's just letting us know what, I mean, look at D's, what capabilities do they have in-house? Description of any experience, you know, so either they have experience or they don't.
right, and they would just put not applicable or something.
Yeah, and then, I mean, just a list of professional recognition, awards, certification, like you can become a, you know, Society of American Foresters has a certification system. There's probably some other certifications out there. So just that kind of stuff, or any kind, you know, if they're awarded some forestry award, that's just good stuff to know. You know, one thing we didn't put in there was listing any enforcement actions against them. I don't know if you want to put that in there or not. I don't, that's kind of non-typical for foresters to really have any.
I don't feel strongly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good without it. I don't think, you know, it's probably not that big of an issue. It's more of an issue when you get to the
Folks doing
logging.
the, I was gonna say, the folks doing the logging. you might
Yeah.
want to- I like how that's written, I wouldn't change anything, that's fine.
Okay.
So I guess what I'd like,
I just say if they have any current actions against them, is that, as far as,
yeah, you know, I mean, I mean, the more I think about it, it's rare for an actual licensed forester. I mean, what I've heard in the past, because every year at the Granite State Division of the Society of American Foresters, the board, the licensing folks get up and talk about, you know, any enforcement actions they've had. And usually it's like someone who wasn't licensed that was offering forestry services, are the kinds of things that they've been involved with. We could ask that.
if they are
That should
licensed.
be
if
public
there are-
record though, right?
Well, they have to be licensed, yeah. Huh?
Yeah, that, any enforcement action would be public record though, right? That's something we could look into if we wanted to.
Yeah, you could, yeah.
Yeah, but if they're upfront about it, you know, it's probably, if you ask and they say no, and you look up and find something, you gotta ask questions.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna find much more that I think about it.
So if they're licensed and have enforcement action against them, I'm assuming there's a rectification period to clean up issues, and if they don't, their licenses are.
I've heard, like I said, I remember distinctly more of like complaints of people offering forestry services that were not licensed, that should have been, was the issue. Yeah. You wanna add it or don't add it, or?
One question.
Yeah,
I
all right,
don't
so
think
just-
it's
Yeah, it doesn't hurt anything to put it in, right?
very important.
So just add, G, please indicate if you have any, adverse enforcement actions in the last 5 years. adverse forestry enforcement actions. We don't really wanna know if they got a, you know, drunk driving or something.
Adverse forestry actions, you said?
Enforcement.
Enforcement, yeah.
Enforcements, okay. And then I'm just thinking now, as I'm looking at the cost proposal page, I might throw in, forest harvest project management as described in section 1(2)A, and then project administration as described in section 1(2)B, just to direct people to that very clearly defined, these are what we're talking about with each of those tasks.
Because you're putting them in a box the way you have that. I know you say other fees, please describe, but item 2 reads, forest harvest project management to be billed as follows. Project preparation, and it's by the board foot, ton of cord. And then you have project administration is by gross stumpage. On the last page, cost proposal.
Where are you at?
On the last page, page 4.
Yeah, and then we got other fees.
Yeah,
So-
but you're telling them it has to be billed as follows.
Right, so then we just talked about, underneath that,
Yeah.
we'll put in alternative methods. Please describe something to that effect.
It should be a question is, how do you bill, or list how you bill for project preparation and how you do project administration.
So can you do project preparation? Are you saying that it could be included in the gross stumpage percentage?
He's just saying, get rid of the whole logs, pulp, chipwood thing, and let them tell us how they would bill for project
No,
preparation.
I
Well-
get it,
Yeah.
but what you're leading to is it could be in the gross stumpage percentage?
No, we're telling it here as billed as follows. We would bill hourly in certain jobs, okay? This says it has to be billed as follows. We don't know that. Steve doesn't know that either. He just said, it could be hourly, that's the way it was in the past. But the way this reads to me is to be billed as follows. And you're telling them how you want it billed.
So I think my understanding was under each section, under 1, you'd list the hourly there, and then underneath that, you'd put or alternative billing method as described. If
Right.
they don't want to go with what we have listed, they can then put in that lower subsection or alternative billing method and describe their billing method.
Okay,
So this,
Under each section.
this is their proposal. So the idea is, this is them saying to be billed as follows, not us saying to
Okay.
be billed as follows.
But yeah, no, having that or alternative billing method added into that under each section, I think that's
okay.
a good.
I'm gonna bid this, okay? Put in a request, I'm gonna answer this. The way I read that, it doesn't say what I'm billing, it says, this is what you guys are asking. And it says, to be billed as follows. That's what we're asking. You're not asking them what they bill, you're telling them how you want it billed. That's how I interpret that. So I just want to make sure that we're not putting them in a box.
So you've got to be billed as follows, you've got project, by the product, right?
Yeah,
And you've got the administration.
correct?
So the other fees that we just talked about are their alternative billing method compared to this. So they're gonna have that option.
Okay,
So we're just gonna need to clearly just say that.
yeah,
The idea is like this last page is they're telling us to be billed this way. I'm signing, me, ABC Forestry Services will bill professional forestry as follows. This is their proposal. I would change this on page 3, respondents shall provide a fee proposal for year 1. Instead of as structured on page 4, I would maybe say using page 4, town forester services cost proposal is as structured as. penning them in thing.
Yep.
I think, Mike, though, I would not include that alternative methods for section 1. I think we want to clear, this is how much we charge per hour for a licensed
Yeah,
professional
yeah.
forester,
And I
forester.
was just looking at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We good?
Yep.
Okay, so ideally, I think, if Suzu makes the edits, fires it off, and then Dave can just give it to the Board of Selectmen, I think that's the next step. So I think we've done our work on that.
Yeah, and I would just ask Zuzu that you hit the space bar a few times under whatever you do here, so that gives them plenty of room to write in a different method if
Yep,
that's what they're choosing.
yep, absolutely.
We've got a fairly tight time frame. Obviously, we won't meet till September. Ideally, by September, we'd probably advertise this thing, if the board, whatever the Board of Selectmen have for edits, and then send it out.
As soon as possible.
Yeah, agree on the final to advertise our next meeting.
Yeah, so get those updates made, and just send it to Naomi, and she'll present it to the board.
Okay,
I think when you send it to conservation, it goes to,
Conservation, I'm on your list.
yeah.
Okay.
Are you getting the stuff, Dave, on the
Yes.
conservation? Yeah, so you just send it to conservation. I kind of figured we're at, that's good. Awesome. So then, we got kind of we worked a little on the actual contract, but Laura had actually thrown most of that together, and, we can just deal with that at the next meeting, because the contract doesn't need to be set until we look at the, even once we get the RFP out. I think, maybe at our next meeting, we'll have to talk about potential creating a sheet to score or something to that effect.
Yeah. I like that, I didn't love that method. It was a good idea. I don't know, but we do need some sort of scoring method though, right? It has to be stronger than opinion, or does it have to be?
I think we talked about some kind of scoring method.
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
So maybe if we just think about, between now and the next meeting, what parts are important, and,
What the value of that importance is?
yeah. Andy had some experience dealing with that that login award, so I'd like to get his insight on what that looked like, because I don't recall seeing it physically.
What are you talking about there?
The award for the most recent
One we
harvest,
just did?
yeah, I
okay.
believe there was a matrix he's developed.
Was.
Yeah, they sent it over.
Do we have that?
I think they sent it over, right?
They did. We all had a copy. I don't have, it's probably in my notes at home, but, yeah, they had the scoring, so many points for this, so many points for that.
Yeah.
And then, based on what that was, they assigned the numbers. But it was black and white, pretty much.
So we just need to think about that
Yeah.
for this.
The hard part is putting that value, that percentage of that item number.
Well, some of it is, if they don't have the proper documents, that was 25% of the score, And then there was a percentage of your impression.
I mean, we'd probably use that list there in section 3, right?
Yeah,
Section 3, item 3,
Yeah.
I would imagine
A
like,
through G. that
you
would
get
be
more
our
points
scoring
if
system.
you have a GIS person on staff.
Yeah.
You get more points if if you have experience designing trails. You get more points if you've done multiple trail projects, kind of thing.
I think when we're doing the scoring, we should set up the system a tiny bit better, because we all had our own vision on how many points we could give. So I would give, out of 50, I'm giving this guy 32 for having 2 references but not 3. But Steve gives him 40 or something, right? So I think there
Yeah.
needs to be a more structure to how we score,
Yeah.
and that would work better, I think.
Yeah.
It's got, I mean, the scoring has to be combined with the cost, I think,
Yeah, oh, yes, yeah.
so. I guess think of some ideas and let's try to deal with that next meeting.
Okay. And are you looking at 50/50 there, cost 50% of the total points you can get, and the other criteria 50%? Do you have any thoughts on that? Or does anybody have thoughts on that?
I don't.
I feel like that would make sense. And then if they only provide 2 references or examples, then they're not. That's
I mean, things
on
like that, well, like you said before, those first 3, maybe those are 100 or zeros, right?
Yeah,
So that's why I say before we do the scoring, we have to talk about what the structure of that is.
yeah.
Grants do it with scores, so I'm sure there's a Google method out there that you
Okay.
can come up with.
Yeah.
That's a great thing, you get so many points if you provide this, so many points if you provide that. But you guys can Google that.
Mhm.
So think about it for the next meeting. We'll block out a pretty good amount of time to deal with that.
Okay.
So Steve, one of your biggest concerns is, I believe, what you've been saying is their longevity with the town, understanding what our goals are, what's going on. I don't know how you
Measure that.
measure that to another company. I think that's a big
You really can't. I
part of
mean,
the conversation. Yeah.
yeah, because I mean, that automatically tips it, you know, to Meadowson if you want, yeah, so.
Yeah, is there any, I can't think of any, is there anything another forester can present that could change that or affect our decision?
I think you're just looking at municipal experience, the ability of the company to provide the services you need and make your best decision, you know? It's kind of a, because otherwise, you know, we're on this track that we're gonna do this, because that's what the select board wants to do.
Steve, other towns with the town foresters, they would have created management plans as well, correct? I mean, Meadows End does a wonderful job on the management plans that we have for the different conservation properties. We would want to probably see from somebody else what their management plan is.
It's in here.
Yeah,
It's a requirement. We submit 3.
Yeah, examples of municipal
Yeah.
forest management plans.
Yeah, so you get to take a look at that. Yeah, so, you know, Dave, that's why on the top there, we've got, and hopefully I think the select board, we're okay with that, with the possible extension for an additional 5 years. So at least if we did end up switching, you know, hopefully if you liked him, you'd keep him for 10.
Yep.
Without going through this again. Do we have minutes printed out, Naomi?
I have a set, you're looking at, I have July 17th for you, that's our joint meeting. There's July 10th, May 8th, April 19th, April 10th, and February 14th that I've not done.
It's been a while since
We
we.
prepared those tonight, or?
I prepared last month. I could refresh my memory.
So I don't feel like we need to approve the joint meeting with the select board, do we? Because that,
They asked if
Yeah.
you would just.
oh, they did?
Just look it over.
Yeah,
Okay,
it was a joint meeting,
We looked it over.
last one.
just one day.
Do you want
I
to
wasn't
make
here.
copies, or do you want to, okay. Oh, you got 'em.
Dave's already seen it. Yeah, because we conducted
not really a lot there for the length of the meeting.
Well, they just asked you to look at it, the board already looked at it.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, I mean, it's not, it's pretty condensed.
I was gonna say, discussion ensued covers a lot.
Yeah,
There's a lot of discussion. I don't know that it was all
there's nothing
fruitful, but
inaccurate in there. So do we need to
You
motion?
guys are all set with it, that's all we wanted to do before we amended it.
Yeah,
it's fine with me.
almost, yeah, make,
Oh, there's two of you weren't here.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we're good with the Board of Selectmen approving them. And we're moving ahead, and I think we're hit the high notes responding to that tonight, so I think we're in good shape. Do you have copies of last month's?
I can go make copies of last
Yeah,
month.
why don't we just at least get last month's done,
Right, you still got some old ones you gotta get out of your way sometime.
and, all right, give them to all of them, we'll knock them all out.
Three of you were here for that one.
I don't have March's, but I wasn't here, so I didn't print them out.
Three for that one.
So I don't think, just for clarity,
As long as you've read them and understood them.
yeah, you don't, I guess,
You don't have to abstain.
if we need a vote, yeah, you don't have to abstain, just to push them.
How many copies does, I know Mark has his in there.
I just don't have March.
Huh?
I just didn't print March.
You just didn't print March?
Yeah.
Did you print February?
Nope.
Or you too?
And then three
We
of,
have a March meeting.
March 13, it's on
Oh,
the
then it's
website.
February I don't have.
February
It's two,
14th.
there's a meeting I wasn't here.
I have February, April,
March 13, 2024.
Everything, the meeting was canceled.
Didn't you do the 13th?
Me? I wasn't there.
Chief Moore just had some mapping done of the town roads and stuff, street signs, parking signs, and stop signs and all that. Yeah, someone just put all that together. Showed us Monday night. He's gonna put that up on the website, I believe. But it's pretty nice. It showed all the roads, miles per hour, speed limits and everything. Showed which are state highways, town roads, private, and class 6 roads. It's pretty comprehensive.
Wow, what'd they do that with?
I don't know. I should have asked him. He was at the award ceremony tonight.
I'm surprised at how few class 6 seem to be on here. I don't know if a lot of them came up as trail or what, but
They're all covered by the trails.
Yeah, a
there's
bunch
lot
of them are.
trail there.
yeah, I guess all that stuff below Farron Pond is.
You use Onyx, Steve, right?
No, not really. Seeing it, usually in Ware, I just use the, you know, if you have the signal, the town thing, tax map works. Onyx isn't always like totally up to date, it seems like.
No, well, the trails are pretty good, because that's actually got state of New Hampshire data.
Oh, yeah,
They bought the data from the SLED NH.
oh, wow,
So, like, that's current trail system, but it's all listed as closed.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's funny, I never really bothered with it, just 'cause I don't really hunt much private land, you know, just kind of stay on the public stuff.
Well, they've gone to Onyx Off-Road now, not just Onyx Hunt, it's Onyx Off-Road.
Is that like a yearly subscription for that?
Yeah,
Yeah. You gotta pay for each state too, right? Is that how they do it?
no, because Maine and Vermont and stuff's on there,
Oh, they are on there?
yeah.
Okay, I thought they were by state.
Maybe for hunting, but for off-road, for the snowmobile, it's New England.
Oh. Yeah, it might be the hunting one. Thanks, Naomi.
Thank you.
All
You
right,
guys packets in case you didn't have enough paper.
so let's go ahead and start with July.
13th you approved and April 10th.
Okay, I was just looking at the website, what was still there is draft.
Did you amend the motion to approve as amended?
You don't have any changes for the July 10th minutes?
That's one, line 110, you need to add a A in between R and A for Horace Lake.
Add a what?
Line 110, just make it say Horace Lake instead of Horse Lake. Path to Horace Lake.
Is actually where you guessed, it's not Indy, it's Judy. On lot 16, it's Judy. Not Indy.
Oh,
On 99, it looks like it should be Ronald and Jacqueline Perrin instead of Prawn, because it's Perrin elsewhere. But I'm not sure, I wasn't there.
It is. Line 24. I believe book does not have an E. Line 30. Is hydric the right term to use?
Yep.
Hydric soils.
What was 124, Dave?
Line 24,
Oh, 24.
yeah,
Okay, that makes sense, okay.
Brooke has an E on it.
Yep.
We got line 37.
Yep.
It should read more, Mr. Fulton raised a concern of a stockpile of material being exposed to rain and sediment washout.
There is a need to stabilize the stockpile. Bit of understanding.
Yeah, he didn't really state that, he just started saying there was concern, and then Mr. Bolduc came in, talked about what they were planning to do. Line 69. I believe after natural should be, and he believes the role of the Conservation Commission tonight is to make a recommendation to the ZBA. Take out what was after and.
It's 61?
I'm sorry,
69.
69.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
after and, scratch that. It should be, he believes the role of the Conservation Commission tonight is to make a recommendation to the ZBA. One 21. After that, scratch that. It should be that a variance be sought for a reduced sideline setback rather than building in the buffer. And last one, 155. Selectman liaison. And scratch the rest of that sentence. Should be asked about the hayfields. And if the Conservation Commission has had any contact with the person haying the fields. Or if a lease has been completed. Period. And Mr. Fulton explained there has not been, period. It was agreed that a further discussion could be had at the joint meeting with BOS. That's all I have.
Okay, I guess we'll entertain a motion to accept the July 10th, 2024 minutes as amended.
Motion to accept the July 10th minutes as amended.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone get opposed, abstain? Motion carries. Go back to the February 14th one, it's a short one, I think. Okay, who's got anything?
I would just say on line 26, just in case anyone needs to, I would say review instead of deconstruct and scoring instead of spreadsheet. To review the scoring.
So I just asked, does that make sense the way it's written? Could that have been how it was said?
Well, I think the implication was so that bidders could see what how we had scored, was what,
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, what did I actually say?
yeah, I'm remembering that was the point of sharing the spreadsheet, which is why, because deconstruct the spreadsheet, I don't know what that even means. But,
Okay.
I mean,
wanted to add review instead of deconstruct.
and scoring instead of spreadsheet. I think it was like, so bidders can see what it was that we had put down. But it's your words, so.
I don't know, yeah, that sounded kind of wordy, but like, it's like something I could have said, I just don't know.
Are you leaving it or changing it?
I really don't care. I'd say leave it. I don't know how anybody could have created that if I didn't say it.
All right. That was all I saw.
On line 93, is meanie spelled correctly?
You know if Jeremy's followed up with that other right to know from Jack
If you,
on the licenses for the invasive species?
Jeremy got back to me this week.
Okay,
I can put in the chat.
okay.
we got an interesting theoretical question on that after this.
2019 was the invoice date,
Yeah.
and all it said was 2 treatments, so, I sent it to Jeremy, and Jeremy got back to me from the office and said this invoice, and they gave me the name and the number
Okay.
of the license.
License.
Mhm.
Perfect.
All right, we, all set to accept the February 14th, 2024 as amended.
I make a motion to accept the February 14, 2024 minutes as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? All right, so here's a theoretical timeout for you. So a right to know is asking for a town record, right?
Yeah.
So when you were the receiver of treatment, I don't know, like for spraying, say even privately in New Hampshire, I'm not sure that the receipt actually has the license number on it. It's just that you have to be licensed. So if you carry this logically along, the town never actually had that record. We just created a record in response to a right to know that didn't exist. So now we just, because, you know, you could have, say if you wanted to know, like, where they licensed, you could have called the state that would have had that record.
Yeah,
You
but,
didn't know who it was?
no, you don't know who it was.
All it said was
Medicine.
they applied a treatment,
Who's licensed?
right?
I think it goes under the
Individual person has to be
company, though.
licensed.
Yeah, a person, but it goes under the company, right?
I,
Think so. I've seen it with federal agency names on them,
yeah,
but I think the company name goes on it. But it's just interesting, though, like, we technically didn't have to have, we didn't have that, right?
Right.
We probably should have had it, but we didn't. I'm not sure if there's anything that makes us have it.
yeah, but we contracted the forester to handle it.
Right.
And his professional, he needs to make sure that if he's got someone doing it, that it's got all the certifications.
Right. But I'm just saying the record doesn't necessarily have to
No.
exist because you could just look at it and
Correct.
say, yeah, you're, you know, so that's all. That's just the weird thing about it, you know, that, so the record, I've seen like in New Hampshire, you have to, there's a report of like what you treated and it gets submitted to the state every year. So they had that record. they have it, or if it's within the record retention timeline.
Which is why he easily found it.
Yeah,
The invoice numbers.
yeah, so, yeah, we should probably
The
get,
invoice number.
get that in the future, but I just thought it was kind of interesting. We're essentially creating a record that we didn't have by getting, yeah, but we didn't. I'd be curious legally if we need to have that or not. We might not. But anyhow, interesting. All right, let's go with the 19th because it's short.
That was your special meeting.
Which one?
They're all special.
19th.
That's what you want to call it. Oh, that's right, and then you had the wedding. Or the engagement, sorry.
Okay, anyone have any comments?
Looks fine to me.
Just at 29, maybe change it to, Camacho said, he replied stating this will be brought up at Wednesday's meeting instead of have been. And then I'm not quite, I quite possibly said this, but I don't know what it means on line 36. Camacho said that it allows them to explain how they put the bids in. I don't know what that's referencing or what, I don't know what that adds to the minutes. So I'd say just strike it unless anybody else thinks it should stay.
Nope.
And what was the 29?
Change have been, this will have been to this will be.
Anything else? Someone want to make a motion to accept the April 19th, 2024 minutes as amended?
Motion to accept the April 19, 2024 minutes as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Abstain? Opposed? Good. So let's take a short break here, and email came to mind that didn't make it on the agenda. I don't think it's like,
You
Yeah.
gonna take these up the last two up next time?
good idea.
Save something for Andy, right?
I know. I'd give nothing to do, right?
10 and 5-8 will be tabled for there.
All right, good idea. You want to go home too. All right, so the Ware Winter Wanderers would like to use the log landing to store some materials to do the trail maintenance.
Yeah, the hill washed out, so they want to stage some loam tailings. And they're gonna have a track truck bring it up in. They need a place to stage it.
Where?
It's on our mountain trail. It's actually on Bolton property, but the access is gonna be through the Bolton field.
Yeah, so is that where you're getting to, where the,
It's
you know
through
where
the
the
gate.
gate is?
Through the gate, up to the log landing, where they had the log landing for that timber harvest. It's a lot closer to the, and they can back in there with the dump truck to dump the material.
Do you need to go over that bridge?
No, that's where, it's, that hill on the other side of that bridge is where they're repairing it.
Okay,
So the log landing is about halfway between the Green Gate and that area. And they can access that, it's been improved, that road, that they can back a dump truck in.
What's loam tailings?
Stones and stuff after they sift loam through a trommel. That's usually what you put in for erosion control.
Okay.
It's cheap and it does a good job. Because there's enough loam and stuff, it creates grass and stuff.
Yeah, my only concern is any invasives that are in there, but it's not on our property. I mean, hopefully there are none. So you're looking for a motion?
Yeah, just permission to be able to stage the materials. And it'll probably be month of September.
I'm all right with it, but if you wanna.
Yeah, I don't know if we need a formal motion for that or not.
And he just wanted it read into the record that they asked.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds all right, it's just a
Yeah.
temporary use. Sounds good, just put it in the record. All right, anything else? Motion to adjourn?
I do have a bill for $50 for NHTOA membership renewal, we just want to have that taken out of the budget. You have dues in your budget.
Yeah, let's just take that out of the budget.
And then you just had two pieces of correspondence, a denied dredge and fill and a documented violation, it's just gonna sit in the file.
What was the violation?
The violation was looks like they what's the word I want for, replenished sand at a beach. And it was, she sent in 7 pictures to document it, but they reminded her that next time she needs a wetlands permit, so they're gonna leave it in the file as documentation.
What pond was that?
71 Winter Road.
Horace.
And then you had one dredge and fill that was denied, insufficient untimely response, they gave him 60 days and they never replied, so they denied him.
That anything
That
we'd,
was on Mountain Road.
sounds good.
Anyone reach out to, for the hayfield regarding, the lease or network cutting? after
Well, the
this
last-
season?
Yeah, I mean, the last thing we discussed was the selectmen had given permission, so the selectmen could kind of tell them that was the end of it.
Who's supposed to call him?
Were we?
I know how to reach him, so.
Yeah, I have no idea. I just know the guy's name is Mark, so.
I think I did just drop him my laptop.
But is that what we're gonna do? Is we're just gonna tell them?
Well, at
You
this
know.
time, until we know,
So we know what's going on.
Yeah, right, yeah.
just so he doesn't get himself into stuff that.
For next year.
Anticipating on next year.
Yeah, putting any money into it.
There was a lot of confusion at the beginning of this season. We know right now, we shouldn't be doing anything till we know what's happening.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, 'cause like we talked about, there's no sense at this point having, you know, sticking a contract in front of them or something.
Just to let you guys know, we established an energy commission on Monday. There were a few residents in the town that were interested in starting this. I remember seeing them up talking about it before I was a member of the select board. It finally came to a head and got established on Monday. We accepted the $995 donation from Towns Logging on Monday as well. And I had, at one point, I think in my first meeting, we talked about Collins Ledge Conservation Land. I think it was Collins Ledge. There was an encroachment or something on one of the property lines, and someone was gonna go out and talk with them.
Bill sent a letter.
So we did do something, okay. I was just curious. That's all I got.
The Energy Commission, is that just town utilities?
No. So basically, the Energy Commission set up under RSA 38D, I believe. But it's basically a group of fact finders. They propose, they go out, they look for ways to save money on energy for the town. There's no money or anything assigned to them. They come up with a plan, they present it to the town, and anything that we would do would be voted on through the town. But the energy aggregation, I guess, that's a separate separate entity. If we wanted to do anything, we would have to create a committee for that, but that's basically what the Energy Commission is at this point in time.
Interesting.
Well, we good? Motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Okay, all in favor of adjourning at 9:30?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed, abstained? Good.